Hi everyone, today is Tuesday, April 25th, 2017. This briefing is to look at peak flows centered around the Cache Valley area, specifically the Logan River for the residents of Cache Valley in that area. So when you look at where the Cache Valley and the Logan drainage is at with regard to precipitation from October through the end of March, this graphic is a good illustration of the entire Colorado Basin. We're going to zoom in to northern Utah in a minute, but it gives you an idea of Utah and the Colorado, Arizona area, who has had the most precip during the 2017 water year. And you see that northern Utah is in the 150 to 200%, even some areas 200 to 300% of average precipitation. 2 to 3 times the normal precipitation amounts have occurred in northern Utah. When you look at the Great Basin, this is what you see. And this is telling, as the snowpack that we have in the mountains is really quite large at this point, and the potential for river flooding and high runoff is quite high in these areas. When you look at temperature, when we started off in December, this is what we saw for the entire country. Cooler colors indicate below average temperatures for that month. And December, when you look at Utah, specifically northern Utah, was cooler than normal. So the precipitation, for the most part, fell in the form of snow. Then January was a little bit colder than what you would expect for January, which is good. Ski industry is doing well. Mountain snowpack's doing well. We were concerned about water supply. Water supply is looking really good this year, but what we're looking at in this briefing is peak flows. Then we went into February, and February for the first 13 days was on average about 13 degrees above average, which is really quite warm. This warmed the snowpack that we had on the lower elevations, valley floors, farmers' fields, those areas, melted that up. That was about 3 inches of snow water equivalent below 7,000 feet. We also had 2 inches of rain during the period, and that also produced some widespread flooding of fields, roads, and caused havoc really throughout Cache Valley and Box Elder County. But what it did was it eliminated a lot of the low elevation snowpack. When you look at snowpack in 2 locations, this is Tony Grove Lake. These are the kind of the headwaters up on the Logan River. It's up near Tony Grove campsite run by the NRCS. This graphic on the y-axis, the vertical axis, is the snow water equivalent, the amount of water in the snowpack. Time is on the x-axis. Navy line is average, what you would expect over 30 years average together. The teal line is 1983. The red line is 2011. The green line is 2017. So when you look at this, 2011 had a much bigger snowpack than 1983 or this year, 2017. But this year is bigger than 1983. 1983, we had some pretty significant flooding, but it's also important to note that we had a very large low elevation snowpack below 7,000 feet, that it was about 6 weeks late in the melt. This year we've melted it out in February. So the low elevation snow is gone. The mid and high is still quite sizable though. When we look at Bug Lake, and this is a station on the east side of the Cache Valley at about 7,950 feet, and you can see it's somewhat in pace with 2011, and that doesn't take into account the snow that we've seen today on Tuesday. So much larger than 1983, but understand 83 went out about 7 weeks late. That's the point. When you look at that line from 1983, it extends vertically almost to the end of May, and then it sharply drops off because it was cold and snowy all the way through about the 3rd week of May. This year, we have much more snow at the mid and high elevation, really at about 7,900 feet at this location, but not as much as 2011. When you look at stream flow in the past, this is the Logan River at 2011. The green line is the actual river flow and stage from 2011, and the river gauge is located at the mouth of Logan Canyon just upstream from Utah State. The red line is flood stage when damage starts occurring in the town of Logan and summer homes up in the valley. Kind of the yellow line is bankful, and you can see that the line extends above flood stage starting right about June 15th and goes all the way through early July for quite some time. The area that's kind of peach and kind of blue, that's the climatology of the river. When it typically peaks, which is about June 1st, and it peaks at about 4 feet and about 550 CFS. You can see 2011 peak way later at much bigger levels, and that's what big snowpacks do. They peak bigger and they peak later. When you look at 1983, the time that the river was above flood stage was much less, but the sharp increase of melt and river rise happened probably within a month's time or a little less, and then it ran out of snow and then it started to drop off. Still a very sizable runoff, but the difference was the snowpack in 1983, while it hung on and it kept building into June, it melted all at once, but there wasn't enough volume to really bring the numbers up like we've seen in 2011. The question is, in 2017, we've got a snowpack like 2011, but what we're hoping for is we don't get the temperature extremes that we saw in 1983. What happened was cold and wet all the way into late May, early June. The switch flipped, the sun came out, the heat picked up. We had a week to 10 days of above average temperature, and that brought that sharp spike in the river up to flood stage, but then the snow ran out because it wasn't as big, even though we had low elevation snow. This is the scenario we worry about with the National Weather Service. If we have this year's big snowpack and a spring like we saw in 1983, river flows coming out of the Cache Valley are going to be quite large, and we will see some damaging floods. If we can somehow turn the rain off, bring the heat on just a little bit, maybe above average for the rest of the spring, we'll melt it off. It's going to be big, but the peaks will be less. So those are the two scenarios we're looking at, and we hope we don't see that. I'm going to produce more of these briefings for you as time goes on. There's my contact info if you need any more information. This briefing in a longer format was given to the mayor, the fire chief, parts of the police department, Cache County Emergency Services, a bunch of different people, and they suggested I do this for the public. We're going to do more of these. We'll keep you informed. Your city government, the county government are on top of it, and we're going to see through this together, so we'll go that route. Until then, look at the weather. If you see the TV weather people tell you it's going to be cold and stormy all the way through May, and then we're going to get a large ramp up in heat, that's a danger signal. If we don't see the rain and we see nice general kind of temperatures a little bit above, we'll be in better shape. Until that time, we'll go from there. Thank you.